Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm running in Assembly District 51. It's a really great neighborhood. It includes uh, parts of Silver Lake, Highland Park, Echo Park, Mount Washington, East unincorporated East LA, and it's a neighborhood that is has gone through a lot of changes in the last decade and is still changing really rapidly. And the reason why I wanted to be a delegate in the Democratic Party is twofold. One is to actually get involved with people in the party, have discourse, and move the party left on a number of policy issues. I think one of the issues with the Democrats is the establishment is really quite right of where most of the American public actually is. So we have this issue where we have a party that says some of the right things but doesn't actually do things that will actually affect people who need this intervention here in our times. So the main reason why I want to be a part of the Democratic Party is to have that conversation and really to move the dialogue forward and creating real solutions to actually affecting, some of our core issues here in this country, which are rampant wealth inequality and, a society that's headed towards environmental disaster unless we really shift to a renewable energy model. So those are things I really want to talk about within the Democratic Party at the conventions. They're left, and of course, I want to help elect party leadership that is going to be left of where the party is today, and who's going to be bold, brave, solution focused, and actually call upon our electeds to be bold, brave, and solution focused as we move forward, because we are on a short timeline to act in some very big ways.
Yeah. Well, how much power, in effect, do you think the delegates actually have? Because we've been seeing a lot of these districts where some of the elected officials are actually pushing their own type of delegates, which seems to be a power grab. So an activist like yourself or an independent person coming in trying to move the party to the left is seeming to have some form of difficulty.
Well, I think the thing is an individual delegate doesn't hold a lot of power, but the way that delegates can act in blocks actually can hold quite a lot of power within the party. And we've seen a lot of movement, especially since 2016 here in California, where the elected delegates we had a lot of progressive people enter the party through these elected delegate positions. So as an individual, you have the power to influence. Your individual vote isn't going to mean that much because there's actually three prongs of delegates, and this elected delegate is only one prong. But
Mm-hmm.
your influence beyond an individual can also be really large. And then as far as electeds running slates, I think that's a really interesting question. I think that there's been a lot of issues on all sides here in this ADEMS election, where you have progressive slates that maybe aren't including all the progressives. You have other slates maybe running, their own people for their own purposes. And I think where you come into some challenges is, how do we kind of figure out who is the real progressive or not? Is it litmus based focused, or is there something else to it? I know I had some personal kind of, uh, you know, like come to Jesus moments in myself as I was figuring out how I wanted to run in this election and which slate I wanted to go with.
Awesome. What is your opinion on the sort of kind of mishandling and lack of organization that's been going on? I'm talking about people being bussed in. Like, how do we fight against that as a progressive? Like, how do you fight against the corruption? Like he was saying, how like congressional candidates are endorsing delegates, or there are mayors running for delegate positions, and there are people being bussed in, and nobody's checking what district someone is in, etc. Like, how do we combat that? Like, how can we even trust in a system that for a system to do the right thing and elect someone that's representative of the people if we don't even have a hold at the very basic foundation levels of our own local government?
Yeah, what I think the biggest challenge on these elections and these kind of party elections done in this caucus style is getting out the vote. I think, first of all, if every voter was informed that this was happening in their community, there'd be a lot more even playing field. So it wouldn't be so much about who has a bus to get their people in or not, because just everyone would be more informed about how they could engage. Because really, this is meant to be a more direct access to party leadership, right? So when you don't have many people that are informed, you have different interest groups really fighting over, a small number of votes. And it can be very, challenging to kind of, go up against maybe some folks with more resources. But at the end of the day, it's going to be who's going to out organize. And that's just one of the things that we have to do as progressives is continually show up and out organize. And with the delegate positions, I think that if we were running less slate focused and if we had more individual candidates, that could be a benefit, in my opinion. But at the same time, because there are no resources being put out there to inform people that this is even happening, we're sort of forced to form slates in order to even get the word out at all that this is happening. Yeah. So most of the resources just go into that. And then it can kind of become a little dog eat dog there in the fray, because there might be great people on different slates. I know in my district, I, of course, want everyone to vote for the working progressives. I think my slate is awesome. I had really specific reasons for choosing to go with them. But there's other slates in the area that also have some people that I know and have worked with on them. So, it's not an easy thing for voters to just have a cut and dry, this is your slate, go do it all the way down the line. They're great. So yeah, there's definitely some issues with it. I think it's an awesome opportunity that it exists, but until the Democratic Party is actually informing all of their constituents that this is an opportunity to engage, I think we're gonna be kind of fighting these uphill battles quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it's by design that it's not out there. You know what I'm saying? I think it's so the establishment can hold on to power by keeping, less information out there about voting and how much power they can go. But and don't get me wrong, Madeline, I want you to be a delegate. I think you're going to be a delegate. But this whole process of the delegate, it seems that we kind of still have to, it's the whole mentality of the Citizens United thing. Well, if they're taking money, we have to take money. Well, if they're busting people in, we got to cheat kind of better, or we got to play the game better. Can't we just eliminate the delegate process altogether down the road? I mean, do we need insiders, whatnot? Can't we have a convention or another voting day and just eliminate the whole mentality of delegates, almost like we eliminated some super delegates?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Pasta. This was something I didn't even know existed until 2 years ago when I happened to vote for a friend who was running as an independent and didn't end up winning, but I had no idea that I was able to come in and potentially vote for people who'd have this direct access to the party. I definitely think that it's supposed to be a way for more people to be engaged in the policies of the party. And I hope that we can move forward. It would make more sense to me to have delegate elections coinciding with primary elections so that all of our Democratic voters were already being engaged by the primary and then would have an opportunity to elect their delegates at the same time. And I also agree with folks who think that the elected officials should have smaller groups of delegates themselves, and it should be a more democratic process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there one last thing that you want to say to people listening to us to, why they should support you in any way, shape, or form, why they should support someone like you?
Yeah, well, I think we need to, where we are kind of as the grassroots, is that we are in this interesting place where we really need to transition from just not only showing up in the streets and showing up and knocking on our elected doors and arguing for policy, but we need to actually enter the decision making, the leadership, and the elected positions across this party. And we actually need to make the will of the people heard through policy. So we kind of got to get our big girl pants on. We got to go in there. We got to talk to people. We got to actually put forward policy that's going to help people in our communities. That's why I want to be a delegate, is I want to have an opportunity to have those conversations and put forward solutions that are actually going to make a real world difference today and in the near future.
That's awesome, Madeline. And that's the reason why, fam, when I say that Madeline's going to be a delegate, because you're all about solutions. You're all about bringing answers to the table. I know a lot of these people running for ADEMs have been pointing out the hypocrisy, and it's okay to point out, anything like that, but you got to present solutions. You still got to be about how you're going to present solutions and how you're going to win and what you're going to do for the people. And that's why I think you're awesome, that despite the cheating, you're just a tsunami of progressive solutions, and that's why I am liking you, and I think you're going to win. Thank you for joining us, Madeline. We know you got to get back to work.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You
Bye-bye,
too.
guys.
Have a good day at work. Thanks.
We'll see you back in a little bit.
Will do.
All right, we're back. That's it. Are we going to do a little commercial break real quick and then start it on up? Is that good, Mr. Tsunami? We're going to see you back in about 5 minutes here on the Convo Couch. Get everybody join on in. We got a great show for you.
2 minutes. 3 minutes.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pastor Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella. So let's get right into it. So as you all know, on Tuesday, the UTLA strike to deal with LAUSD. And
teacher strike.
They were able to make a few arrangements. However, there is controversy in that because many people, including many teachers specifically, feel that this was definitely not good enough and is actually pretty much that they didn't get really far at all. So let me read to you guys a tweet by LA Unified Schools. They said today we announced that LAUSD today announced that it has reached an agreement with UTLA on a new contract that provides 6% salary increase for educators, reduces class sizes, adds a significant number of librarians, counselors, and nurses, and maintains fiscal solvency of the school district.
Because that's what's most important, fam. The fiscal solvency. Not the children.
Right.
The fiscal. The fact that we have money, we're being fiscal about it. Who cares if we starve the schools? Sorry, fam.
So, Mayor Eric Garcetti, who worked with the district and also helped with this negotiations, was among the people that were welcoming students back in on Wednesday when students were going back. So here are a couple of things that we have regarding the class size. So a main thrust of the union strike was a call for increases in the number of nurses, counselors, and librarians. However, it doesn't seem like that's enough. According to the information we have from the LAUSD and the contracts that we have, the class reduction size is only going to be within a 3-year period by one student. So at the very minimum by one student. It can be by more than one student, but it's at the minimum by one student.
Can I say something about that, right? Fam, we were out there. We were talking to the people. This was the number one reason. It was the cap size.
It wasn't the salary.
It wasn't the salary. They didn't like the fact there wasn't nurses there but once a week. I mean, that's just ridiculous. If a kid has to take insulin on a Tuesday, he's out of luck. It wasn't the fact that they couldn't have any counselors, one counselor once a week. I mean, they were big issues. But the biggest issues with all these teachers, fam, was the cap sizes. There was a teacher, I believe. Could I read that quote over there? Or do you want to read that one with the 37 desk? Or are you going to get to that one?
Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet. But
okay, but I mean, that cap size was the most important fucking thing.
Yeah.
And they didn't get anything for that. I mean, what were the negotiators just waiting on? The 6% increase, which is nothing.
Right, because it's over a period of time, okay? So the class sizes, for instance, are up to 46 in some schools or more.
Ridiculous.
And it's to be reduced to 38 and 39 by 2022, which is still ridiculous. At 30, I never sat through I went to public school, and I never sat through a class size that big. And I was in school in Florida the majority of my life, so that's the South is terrible.
I never had classes with 38 kids in it. No way.
Another thing that was actually a good thing, though, is that the proposal called on for the district to support a statewide cap on the charter and public school campuses, on the charter schools, to provide regular reports on the proposed locations for the public school campuses. So meaning that they would have a cap to how much money these profit charter schools are getting. And that was one of the main reasons they did negotiate, was precisely because of that, because all of the money was going to the charter schools.
Can I ask you a question, though, fam? You're talking about the charter schools. Now, we talked to these people, and we found out there was $2 billion in surplus. So now they blocked the money from going from the charter schools, but they didn't get the money to actually go to the kids. So now this money's still sitting in friggin' limbo. I mean, it's not even being tapped into.
Well, they're saying that that's where the money's going to go, but we all know how that is. So let me just continue. The deal also had Garcetti to support a ballot initiative going to voters in November 2020 that would roll back Proposition 13, which were property tax limits on commercial buildings to increase state tax revenue for public education that way. So that was like the core reason why a majority of the teachers agreed with that. But the reason why it wasn't such a great deal, like many people wanted it to be, is that elementary school teachers aren't very happy. Are they?
Oh, you want me to I get to read this one right here. This is teachers aren't happy about this one teacher Brenda Hauser told NBC4, they gave us very few hours to review it, and what we needed was the most in class size reduction, which we didn't get. She said, I have examples. There are, I can't remember where it's at, but she said she had 37 desks in her class and 40 students.
Right. So
in 3 years, we might get every kid in a desk.
So there's people sitting on the floor. There's kids sitting on the floor.
Indian style for English. Can you imagine that? English style. I mean, and they get the property tax back. So once again, okay, they get some more money coming in. But once again, the money's sitting in limbo. It's not going anywhere. Our kids are still suffering. And the teachers got a little piece of cheese and they bid on this deal. And that's why the teachers are pissed off, because they're pissed off at their representatives.
And a lot of people like to say that this is, oh, how dare they keep the students off of school? Like they're hurting the students. That's actually not the case. The teachers were actually fighting for the students. They didn't even really were even concerned with the salary increase, even though they damn well should be getting one. But they were more so concerned about the kids having enough of the quality education with reduced class sizes and with having enough counselors or nurses. And it doesn't seem like there's going to be enough nurses, because there's only going to be 300 nurses, which means no full-time nurses when you have over 1,200 schools. And it's not really a 6% increase. As we said, it's 3% retro, then 3% as of July 2018, which equals a 3% raise further on. So it's divided into two brackets, and it's going to be 500 students to every one counselor is like the limit. So
to one.
I don't know how that's even possible.
See, fam, this is when Bernie Sanders was telling people to go out and run for office. These are the offices he was talking about. Yeah. He was talking about city council. He was talking about school boards. He was talking about all this. We need people who are emotionally, not just emotionally invested, but like they have a stake in the game. We need the parents of these children to go and run for these positions and make sure these kids get the money. Because this right here, I'm sorry, fam, it's a sham. And I know why a lot of teachers are upset. Their representatives caved in and got nothing. And you know what happened?
I wouldn't say they got nothing. I would say they got very little.
They got very little. But you know what they what Austin Butner got and the Betsy DeVosses of the world, they got to change the debate now. Because now the debate is going to be on about, well, we have a funding issue. And it's going to get away from what the kids need. Yeah. Okay? And when it came to education, that was one time I didn't care about deficit spending. Just get the kids what they need. We'll make up the money somehow. I mean, if we have money for bombs, how do we not have money for schools? This is a sham. And we got to move forward and get better. We got to get some people elected to these school boards. I'm sorry, fam.
And just the fact that teachers had everybody on their side, that they had this momentum, it was growing, that movement. This entire teachers strike is growing. There was Colorado was also going on strike as well. And I think honestly, I understand why they did it, and I understand the pressure, and I understand all of that, but I do think they could have held out for a little bit more, because they did have people on their side. They did have the momentum. So
it's when they started, they should have been saying, hey, this is the line. You gotta make a shit line. And until they get across that shit line, you do not budge. The majority of the people, the students, their parents were with these teachers. They had it. And
again, though, that is also not getting paid. And people, in this economy can't really afford it. There's a lot that goes into it. And I definitely appreciate the efforts of the teachers who, in the rain and the cold, every, 6 days, they were out there, and everybody who supported them. So
we love you, teachers. We support you. I wish you could have got a better deal. We got to fix this down the road. Let's get some elected officials that we need, that are on our side this time to represent us, not the Austin Butners of the world. Fam, should we go on to the next one?
Yeah.
Because I know this one's going to get you fired up. Fam's going to get fired up, ladies. Right now, Fam's in her calm spot. She's chill, but a little bit something that works better than coffee is, check this out, Kamala Harris for president, Fam. How do you feel about that?
No cops for president 2020.
Ooh. Is Kamala Harris really a cop?
Yes, actually, she is. It's not even a joke anymore. Let's first of all, let's just watch her ad to start.
Yeah, just for starters.
Truth, justice, decency, equality, freedom, democracy. These aren't just words. They're the values we as Americans cherish, and they're all on the line now. The future of our country depends on you and millions of others lifting our voices to fight for our American values. That's why I'm running for President of the United States. I'm running to lift those voices, to bring our voices together. So please join me in Oakland on Sunday, January 27th, and go to kamalaharris.org to join our campaign. Let's do this together. Let's claim our future for ourselves, for our children, and for our country. I'll see you in Oakland.
Excuse me, fam.
For the people.
What?
For the people. Did anyone ever say that before Bernie Sanders?
Oh.
I'm just gonna throw that out
What
there.
neoliberal bullshit was that?
Okay,
it's
no.
nothing but platitudes.
Let's pretend we are marketing specialists and we're criticizing this ad.
Okay,
so first
I'm
of
sorry.
all,
Now that we got that out.
first of all,
Sorry.
I know it's the beginning of her ad. I'm not even gonna, go there. But it's the words she uses, as you all can see if you go back and listen to it over and over again. I don't know if you want to, are all very generalized, very platitudey, very like salad with nothing in it, just leaves, just dry, nasty leaves. It's just very much like, let's come together, let's work together for our family, for our children. There's no specifics.
Nothing.
There's no stances on anything.
Nothing. No policy.
There is no policy
None.
whatsoever.
None.
There is like a little upbeat music in the back to show like how hip and cool she is, and and like, yeah, like, I'm here, I'm a woman,
And this
vote
film,
for me. And
she needs an acting
cheer,
coach.
cheer, cheer.
Every single thing. And let's us be together in Oakland. I'll see you there. Our values unite us. She needs an acting coach as well, because she got a long way to go.
You don't need an acting coach when you're just literally saying the truth and speaking about issues that are affecting the American people. The reason Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's ad was so moving was because it told her story and how it was a normal working class person who simply thought that nobody was doing the job they should be doing, and that's why she's running. And the issues in here are the issues that are affecting me and my community. And that's like, it's really not something cryptic that you all have to figure it out. It's very easy to figure it out.
It's not cryptic? There's
No.
not some hidden message in there? Some form of policy?
So let's differentiate between her ad and
Yeah.
then what her actual policy is, which is probably the reason why she's not talking about it. So, thank you to Kamala Harris on Twitter, by the way. I share this on my Facebook, and it has like thousands of shares, because this is information that all of you should have at your fingertips, just so you know. Number one, as California Attorney General, Kamala Harris defended the state's death penalty laws. So that is absolutely verifiable. If you go into this link right here at kcra.com, it talks about how she worked against having any kind of retribution for death penalty. Like, she is completely for the death penalty. In a particular case, she specifically issued a complaint against the Ninth Circuit Court against this. So that is just one issue that she is just god awful on.
Yep. Number two, I'm going to go with here. Can I get a little bell? I think we need like a little something. Come on, go with number two. In 2015, Kamala Harris... Oh, did it go? Oh, in 2015, Kamala Harris sought to block gender reassignment surgery for a transgender prison inmate. Fam, what is that all about?
So when this lady, Michelle Lales Noteworthy, was convicted of second-degree murder in 1987, she was serving in prison with men, and then she got gender reassignment surgery, and she specifically, Kamala Harris specifically challenged the order in the court as well. And she said that the drug therapy and prison counseling made surgery medically unnecessary. So she was basically bringing together the law with someone's choice for gender reassignment. Not very progressive, if you ask me.
Yeah, not at all.
Very, very anti the T part of LGBT, if we're going to go there.
Well, I think, too, it's also a form of her signaling to, like, moderate to right kind of people who think that, oh, that she committed murder or he committed murder, that she shouldn't be allowed to have the sex change or whatever. She just wants to do that to get into a female, whatever the case may be. It just seems like a form of signaling. What about number 3, fam?
Number 3. So Kamala Harris was a firm proponent of civil asset forfeiture, which means that she was sponsoring a bill that allowed true prosecutors to seize assets before charges were even filed. And this is a big one in regards to Kamala Harris because, she's seen as the protector of civil rights, the civil rights people, people who are activists, people of color, women, especially Black and brown people. And this is entirely false.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bad one, too. I hear this is another one. When you go into New York to talk to top Wall Street execs, and then you're proposing and you're sponsoring laws like this, I mean, that allows you to seize assets before charges were even filed. I mean, that's just ridiculous stuff, and it favors the rich once again. Give me a little bell over here. I got number 4 over here. Ready? All right. In 2010, a judge declared that a San Francisco district attorney, Kamala Harris, had violated defendants' rights by hiding damaging information about a police drug lab technician. Fam.
And when
all about?
When you have the power like that, you're in a position like her as an attorney general, and a prosecutor, which she's been both, and she started as a senator, as you know. And you are automatically doing shady things like hiding documents and putting the wrong information. I know Biden was also accused of something similar. It just shows that you're not going to have the same kind of integrity in anything you do. And to me, that just shows that's a no-go when it comes to the presidency. Jeez.
Give us a bell for number 5 over here. Fam, you want to read it?
Yes. So Kamala Harris refused to charge One West and its CEO, Steven Mnuchin, as many of you know, Trump's Treasury Secretary, for criminal conduct that affected thousands of homeowners. In 2016, Mnuchin donated $2,000 to Harris's Senate campaign. So here's another, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. And Steven Mnuchin is one of the most hated people. Yeah. Because of all of the things that he did that personally and directly affected millions of Americans.
Yes, with their houses and the mortgages, it's pretty much throwing them out, robbing them. One West committed some seriousness. And guess what? Mnuchin only donated to one Democratic campaign. Guess whose, fam?
That's KD.
Kamala the Cop Harris. Give us the bell. We're going out for number 6. As a district attorney and attorney general, Harris pushed for a new statewide law that let prosecutors charge parents with misdemeanors if their children are truant, affecting low-income communities, fam. Is that the thing where they don't go to school, they play hooky, and the parents can be charged?
I don't know if it's just that, but it's just in general that if their children have misdemeanors, then if they do something wrong, then the parents are at fault, and especially if they're minors. Yeah. So that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I understand that you as a parent are responsible for your child, but to try to get these parents involved in a kind of criminal sort of, like a criminal case, or whether whether your kid does something or not, is a little ridiculous. And it also, again, adds more to our for-profit prison system, which apparently she just is so against.
Yeah. Let's get the bell. Let's go number 7 here, because Kamala's got a lot of stuff to still, Kamala Harris, give me the bell.
So Kamala Harris resisted efforts to make her office investigate police killings.
No.
And this is the one Californians were very very aware of, because she didn't do much during her time, and it's one of those things where even people of color were telling her, hey, you need to actually do something. You need to actually prosecute these police officers. And the reason why people say Kamala Harris is a cop is because she not only refuses to actually hold them accountable, but also she gets money from several police unions and several a lot of people who work in law enforcement, and she has pictures with them and hangs out with them. She's honestly a person that is all about that side of the aisle, does not prosecute enough people.
She doesn't have any problem with taking money from the people from the private prison industrial complex. She never has. She will continue to do it. She is a cop. And you know what the most disgusting thing about this is that she refused to prosecute a police officer who shot an unarmed black man. There's a lot of that going on still to this day. Jackie Lacey's another one over here.
Yes.
But Kamala Harris instead decided to prosecute the people who were protesting the shooting of an unarmed and murder of an unarmed black man. She did that instead, and that to me is what's disgusting more than anything. Give me the bell over there. We're going number 8.
This was a big one.
Kamala Harris repeatedly opposed meaningful reform of the state's uniquely harsh 3 strikes policy. Fam, we're still reliving this stuff. Disproportionately affecting black men. Her Republican opponent was more liberal on this issue. Fam.
I mean, this is just self-explanatory, and
3
for time's
strikes.
sake, we can't go fully into it. But this is such a conservative mindset. Like, for someone that's going around talking about, I'm from Oakland, I'm liberal, blah, 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 blah,
Our
blah.
values.
Like, no, this is literally what puts black people specifically, but in general, people of color in jail, because a lot of these people grow up in an environment that's conducive to being involved in any sort of crime, whether they're forced to go into gang initiation, whether they're forced to sell drugs because they don't have money, whether their parents did that, in any way, shape, or form. And to say that, the streets 3 strikes rule, it's just disgusting.
It's very disproportionate.
Literally, to me, that is why she's one of the most worst candidates that anybody could vote for. And I see a lot of progressives being like, well, Kamala's not that bad.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
know, right?
Oh, really?
That's why they're not progressive.
This is literally
fam.
the worst candidate for the people of color right now. And all we're focusing on, which is what we're going to talk about later, is the color of her skin.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me ask you a quick question, fam, because I think it's a great time while we're in this heated discussion and stuff like that. Because I thought about it last night when I was going to bed. If they cheat a progressive again and kneecap a progressive and come out with Kamala Harris, it's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. I might not even vote.
Yeah.
I might not even vote. I'll write in Bernie Sanders. I'll write in Tulsi Gabbard if she was the one who's cheated. But if it comes to Kamala Harris running against Donald Trump, I will not vote for Kamala Harris. I'm not going to vote for Trump, I'll tell you that much. But I will not vote for Kamala Harris. And I'm saying it right now. This woman does not deserve to be president. Give us the bell and get to number 9, fam. We're getting fired up over here. Come out swinging.
By the way, just to throw it in there,
BT Dubs.
Kamala Harris' top campaign contributor before has been Time Warner.
Yep.
And Time Warner's already donating to her again.
Yep.
And Time Warner owns CNN, just so you all know.
Oh, didn't she get a town hall coming up with CNN?
Yeah.
I mean, when Bernie announced he got a town hall with CNN right away. No, not until after he got cheated.
They don't even talk about Tulsi either.
Yeah.
So number 9, Kamala Harris repeatedly worked to keep an innocent man in jail. This is that case that everybody was up in arms about, who had already served more than a decade for a crime he didn't commit. So she was actively working against this man after he was in prison for 13 years for something he didn't do.
Yeah.
And
Kamala the cop, man. I'm sorry. This woman is not going to. I hope to God she doesn't become the president. Give me the bell. I got to go to number 10 over here. Because this is a good one, fam, because this reminds me of Ray McGovern talking about the acts of the CIA and the FBI doing shady shit like that. And that's what I'm saying. They're all on the same level now. Kamala's on that level. Kamala Harris defended a prosecuting attorney who slipped a falsified confession into an interrogation transcript. That is some of the most shadiest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Well, she's a cop. They do that all the time.
Oh, my Lord.
New York, they specifically do it all the time. Forced confessions, so on and so forth. Yeah. Kamala Harris went after Backpage. Okay. Number 11. An online classified website used by sex workers during an election year, putting them back in harm's way, looking for work on the streets. Okay, so this one is kind of controversial.
Yes, it is.
Because Backpage is one of the main places where children, specifically mainly women, have been sold and sex trafficked through that website, where a lot of men knew where to go to actually find them. And so Backpage is actually damaging anyway.
Yeah.
So if there is the least horrible thing she could have done, this is it. Because yes, when you prosecute sex workers as criminals, you are also increasing our prisons with women who are actually victims, okay, of a system, and of a system that exploits them for their bodies, and also of the economics and the infrastructure of a family that's fallen apart to where they feel like they have to do that in order to survive. So it's bad when you go and prosecute sex workers. However, Backpage as a whole was terrible because there was a lot of children that were being trafficked there, and there was a special documentary I saw a while ago that spoke about how just the amount of money that these people have, the Backpage people, the PR consultants that they have, has kept them going, and you can still find children there through little clue words that they write, like white dove or something, which means like an underage minor. It's disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, this is a no-win, no-win situation. The only one who wins on this is the libertarians, who say that, prostitution should be legal, because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because there were a lot of women who were sex workers that were of legal age, not children, not trafficked, just doing it on their own because it's the only way they could survive, and they were using Backpage. So by cutting off Backpage, you still threw them on the streets, and it made it harder for them to look, harder for them to screen people, that sort of thing. It's a very complicated thing, but you know what? I don't think the whole sex trafficking for kids was really the mentality that Kamala Harris had when she shut it down. I believe it was an ideological belief that prostitution should be illegal, and that's why she was cutting. That's a controversial one either way. But once again,
prostitution being illegal increases the amount of women in prisons. It increases the amount of people we have in prisons. Yeah, and that's not how it should be.
Give me the bell, my man. I got to read number 12 here because this is a big one over here. Kamala Harris's office opposed a Supreme Court ruling fighting not to release nonviolent California inmates. Now, I got to tell you something, fam. I watched this thing the other day. They had the biggest mass bailout ever. They bailed out like 200 inmates in Rikers Island and stuff. And there was a guy opposed who was talking and saying, well, these people don't feel safe. They said 75% of these people are not going to even be charged. 75% of these people, it's not going to even, they're not going to they're not going to go to prison. You know what I'm saying? But the one guy was trying to say, who worked for the prison, saying, well, these people feel safe. That's disgusting. Okay? We shouldn't have to lock up 75% of the people are going to not even be charged, okay, but still have to pay this money, still have to go through our system, and everybody's making money. And you're talking about 9 nonviolent crimes in California, and she wants to keep them in jail.
And she wants to keep them in jail
disgusting
because we would lose an entire important, vital labor pool.
Oh, yeah.
That's literally what she said.
Who's going to fight a fire?
That's exactly. For what? For how much?
10 cents a day? 12 cents an hour? Whatever the hell it is.
No, it's not. It's not even. Yeah,
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. It's disgusting.
Totally
and
ridiculous.
That's why.
Let's get the bell and get to number 13, fam.
Kamala Harris refused to release nonviolent inmates, saying she has a client, referring to Governor Jerry Brown. The California Attorney General is an independent election position, so she was not serving at the governor's pleasure. So she, again, this is more about the refusal to release any. Give the inmates the same amount of leeway that she gives people like Jerry Brown or people like Steve Mnuchin.
Yeah. This is the one. Give me the bell because I'm going to number 14 because this is the one where I was done, fam. You know me, fam. I'm done. Kamala Harris refused to back marijuana legislation. You're done.
Legalization.
You're done. That's turkey talk. I got a turkey over there. I want to go. Kamala Harris. While continuing jailing black men for it, okay? Busting men of color for having a joint, bullshit. Even her AG, Republican, Attorney General, Republican opponent, backed the legislation. A Republican is backing the legislation.
Legalization of marijuana.
And the Democrat is not. Sorry. I said legalization.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is obviously important to many of us.
Bella, we're going number 15. Very important to me, fam. My most important thing.
Not only did Kamala refuse to investigate police shootings, like we've mentioned before, she also refused to install police body cams, which is something that California has been trying to keen on, and finally I believe we passed that we will be installing body camera regulations on people, on police officers. So she's against that.
Yeah.
She's a cop, you guys.
Fam,
she's a cop.
Kamala Harris is a cop, no doubt about it. And let me tell you something. That was just the cop discrepancies we have. We didn't even get into her money. We didn't even talk about her.
We would
going
be
to
here
speak
all
law.
day if we went
Please.
into every specific of every case. But let me just tell you, go to Kamala Harris on Twitter, and there are links, or to my Facebook and that post, because there are links to every single thing that is stated there that you can read in your own leisure. There's a lot of information there. But it is important that people know that she is definitely not a civil rights activist, leader, any kind of way, shape, or form for people of color. That is what she's running on, and that is what we have to kill from the very beginning.
Yeah. All right, so I want to kind of transition to this, fam, because once again, we want to talk about the identity politics as pertaining to Kamala Harris, because it stuck its nose out really dirty, coming from, somebody talking about the money lines and saying, oh, the woman is bought and paid for. And then we get to this whole debate and argument about that being very insensitive, that it's referring back to slave ownership and whatnot, fam. Let's talk about because this is something we need to continue to talk about, because I still say this is going to be the death of the left, and I can see it right now. Every time I watch my shows on RTs, when I watch the panels, they fear that the left is going to kill himself through identity politics. Fam, you got anything to say about it?
Okay, well, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
Okay, so we're back, fam, and I asked you a question before the break, and I got this great article up. I read it several months ago, and like I said, I watch my shows on my RT, I watch my crosstalk, and I hear a lot of the media, that those particular media saying that they fear the left is going to eat themselves with identity politics. You got any opinions about that?
I 100% agree with that. Go. I mean, I think there's so much of the holier now. I am so much more woke and progressive and aware that I'm going to police every single word that comes out of your mouth. Thereby, you turn off people who disagree with you. Further, you also turn off people who may agree with you but just don't like the way you're doing that. And then you create this sort of fixation on the language that we're using, or without taking in why. We're saying things like, for instance, the symbolism in Kamala Harris's run and the way people speak about her versus her policy. Yeah. Like, for instance, Kamala Harris is a sellout. She's bought by corporations. You can't say that. That's racist. No, it's not. Yeah. Yes, it is. No, you can't talk like that. First of all, normally people pointing that out to me are white people. Number one. Number two, who want to be like super woke and be like, okay, number one. Number two, like, you're completely focusing on the symbolism of the language, ignoring my very well intention, because that I know that I'm not talking about her in terms of a racial narrative. I'm not speaking about her race. I'm talking about her policy. Then you go and ignore the policy that I'm mentioning and solely focus on the language being used. And it kills me because then we're not talking about her failures as a attorney general, her failures as a senator with people of color. Now we're just talking about how I am being offensive because I said she is sold out and she's bought.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if it's Hillary, if it's Obama, her, or anybody else that is a corporate type of candidate. I will use that same language. And that does not mean at all that I refuse to understand, that I'm like, I don't care about race. No, that has nothing to do with it. It is because I care about race and poor people and people of color that I'm focused on her horrid policy. And,
Terrible.
And all they do is draw the focus on the words.
Yeah.
And then we don't get anything done.
I think a lot of times too, fam, it's not just about the virtue signaling, it's about deflecting the argument too as well. It's because they don't have an argument for it, you know. I mean, and I got into this myself about the bought and paid kind of thing and whatnot. I mean, the lady accepted money from Steven Mnuchin, Trump's Treasury Secretary. You know what I'm saying? She's been seeing Wall Street executives going to New York. She takes money from the private prison industrial complex. I mean, what more? I mean, why do they got to twist the language, fam? Because this article that we're going to talk about in The Intercept, this guy hits it on the nose. He talks about contemporary identity politics as opposed to back in the days when they understood that racial issues and capitalism go hand in hand. Now it seems to be separated of some sorts. Can we dive into this argument because this article? Because I'm going to love your viewpoints on this and what you just said. Amen, fam. Because I'm glad you say these things. Because being a white male, it's sometimes you're really hard to say these things. But you know, I don't want the same thing to happen, which happened in 2016, fam. The identity politics sometimes caused us from having serious debates, having serious talks about what happened. We were looking at so many things on the surface rather than diving into what the real issues are. So I'm not going to stand back and let it stay imposed the other day. And when people were saying to friends of mine, gross for saying that she was bought and paid, I'm sorry. She is bought and paid for by, you know, Wall Street, by the prison industrial complex. So let's dive into this article, fam. Let's put it on up. The Intercept, How Identity Politics Has Divided the Left, an interview with Assad Haider. Now, Assad Haider is a teacher, a professor over at UC Santa Cruz in California. And look at some of the stuff he puts up. Okay? He charts, we'll start off with, he charts the process which through the revolutionary visions of the Black freedom movement, which he understood racism and capitalism to be two sides of the same coin, have been largely replaced with a narrow and limited understanding of identity.
Exactly.
Fam.
Exactly what we're saying. I mean, back in the civil rights movement, we had Martin Luther King, who was a socialist through and through. And the civil rights movement not only attacked and promoted civil rights issues, but also tied it with economics, okay? Because all poor people are oppressed people. And people like Malcolm X, who were also super leftist and super had Marxism embedded through and through, were also tackling that kind of mentality. We were all oppressed people under the oligarchy, so to speak. They never once acted like that it was only the identity of what they were doing that was the key. It was the entire structure of a system that led to two sides being pitted against each other.
Yeah. What about the next one? Let's read this one because this is the framework. Identity reduces politics to who you are as an individual and gaining recognition as an individual rather than your membership into collectivity and to a collective struggle against oppressive social structure, Haider writes. As a result, identity politics paradoxically, how do you say that word?
Paradoxically.
Thank you. Ends up reinforcing the very norms it set out to criticize, fam. Can you give us a little intuition on that?
Yeah, so if you're so focused on the identity politics of someone being, let's say, a person of color or a woman, and that's why you're going to vote for them, even if they are bad for the very people you seek to protect, you are doing the exact opposite of what your initial intent was. So you're going to hurt people of color and Black people if you vote for someone like Hillary Clinton, if you vote for someone like Kamala Harris. Obama was a deporter in chief.
Yeah.
I mean, these are truths that are very hard for us to settle with, especially in an era of TDS, where, you know, people are so obsessed with hating on Trump that they completely neglect everything else that's going on.
I mean, the whole thing about it is, I think that, you know, a lot of people think they're being, we use the term virtue signaling because they're being virtuous or they're being compassionate or they're being loving, and they think it's the right thing to do, but actually it's having a reversed effect, and it's actually harming more than helping and stuff. You know, and it's like this one group of people trying to speak for another group of people rather than allowing people to speak for themselves at times and whatnot.
Exactly.
And maybe I'm just taking it out of context. Listen, as we're going along with this, I want to talk about these things because I believe it has hurt us. As I talk to all my guests in my restaurants, which are a lot of Trump supporters, we have people with money and stuff like that, they always mention the identity politics, and it made it easy for them to walk away from the Democratic Party. Okay, so when I bring these things up and I want to have these discussions, is because I don't want to lose again because this tactics is being, you know, put into play, and who's really diving into it are these progressive establishment kind of people who are using it for deflection and kind of tweaking or signaling or playing with the emotions of the, you know, the activists who then in part kind of repeat the same kind of rhetoric and dialogue. Exactly. So I think I want it stopped so we don't let it hurt us, so we can have the conversations. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? It's like Jonathan Pye said, everybody's going around calling everybody a Nazi nowadays. It's ridiculous. Let's go to the next part. Can you read this one, fam?
Yeah. Identity, he argues, has become abstracted from our material relationships with the state and society, which make it consequential to our lives. So when identity serves as the basis for one's political beliefs, it manifests in division and moralizing attitudes instead of facilitating solidarity. So you're so focused on being uber moral and showing how, you know, superior you are and how clean you are and how you're so aware of racial relationships that you fail in forming solidarity with these people and actually listening to how we build and move forward together. That's literally what it is. And I couldn't agree more with this article. I think this is an amazing article.
When people were saying that we were calling Hillary Clinton a corporate whore, is it really wrong to say that? Because, you know, that was the attack then. Now it's, you can't say bought and sold for, because even though, but all the connections that we are saying in the dialogue we are using, they are true.
But I think even something like corporate whore, you can probably like, I get it. Whore doesn't mean anything by itself. Bought and sold means something by itself. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like whore is just it's an insult that I would say even like stay away from, because people are going to use that against you. And I get what you're saying. But at the end of the day, saying someone is bought and sold by corporations is a fact. It's not an insult. It's not anything. It is a fact if they are. And that's something that they can't even attack because it's the truth. So
I think we have one more part about this. He charts out right there, I think.
I think you already said that, right?
Did we do that one? Yeah, let's go. It's a mistaken identity. Okay, and just ending up when he says it's a mistaken, Assad says, he argues that contemporary identity politics is the neutralization of movements against racial oppression, rather than the progression of the grassroots struggle against racism.
It neutralizes you because you're literally not doing anything except arguing with each other over words that mean one thing to you, mean something else to someone else, and you are literally not progressing in the grassroots against actual racism, against the actual oppressors. And this is something that I will gladly have a debate with on any of my friends who disagree with me, because I know I have very close friends who disagree with me when it comes to this kind of thing. And it's not ignoring the actual plight of the oppressed people. It's actually highlighting it by not focusing on things that are just there to distract us, so to speak.
I mean, you guys got to check out that article. It was pretty amazing because it talks about when the term identity politics was coined or framed or whatever, and it was a group of, in the 70s, the early 70s, of black lesbian women who just formed coalitions and in solidarity. In other words, they didn't attack the people next to them. They didn't attack their allies, especially over language nowadays. I mean, it's getting really, the tone policing is just going to hurt us at the end. And if we don't change it, it's Donald Trump all over again. And people need to get that through their heads. I always say this, and I looked at a lot of people, they want to talk about why Donald Trump won the election. The two main reasons were NAFTA and identity politics. You know what I'm saying? I understand that there is a form of privilege. I understand there is an advantage I have. But when you're telling that to people all across the Rust Belt who can't even pay rent, and you're uber focusing and hyper focusing on that rather than the struggle we're all living together, you're just doomed to fail, fam, and we just got thrown to the wolves.
Okay. And quickly, I just wanted to go over this video of this New York Times journalist
right above the identity politics,
because I do want to separate how people think of Tulsi Gabbard and people think of Kamala Harris, because Kamala's gotten nothing but accolades from every mainstream media out there. Yeah. But this New York Times journalist went on Joe Rogan's show and didn't even know exactly why she didn't like Tulsi, and it showed, and it was really unprofessional and ridiculous.
And this was sent in by our audience. I just want to say that if you got a time after, like and share, but this was sent in to us on our show, so we want to thank you. We're going to use the material you send us when you educate us. Go right ahead. I'm sorry.
What do you think happens with him?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know who can beat him. I don't know who can beat him. Who do you think can beat him?
That's a good question. I don't know. Hillary can't. I'm so worried.
Duh.
Yeah, but I'm so worried she's going to run again. She's going to muscle her way to the top.
I don't know who can beat him right now. And I don't know.
Why do you think that?
Right, and the question, is
as
like,
things keep going further and further south, what about someone who is a centrist Democrat? Doesn't that make more sense? That someone who's a rational person, who's on the right, who's going to look at this person who's maybe economically conservative but socially liberal and say, this is really where
unless
I'm
they run
towards.
someone on the far left and like on an identity politics platform. That's what scares me.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Well, could it though? Because
I don't think so.
I don't know, because Trump's whole thing was, screw the center. I just need to make my base go ape shit crazy for me.
But they're still ape shit crazy, and no matter what he
does.
does.
And I'm worried that the Democrats are going to try and replicate that strategy and be like, we just need to make our base go ape shit crazy, rather than running someone that can win the center.
I see where you're going, but I think that this is maybe my liberal bias, but I think that people on the left wouldn't fall for that the same way people on the right would. I don't think people on the left who saw someone who went ape shit, full woke, far left. I think there's a lot of people in the center who be like, "Well, I'm just gonna vote libertarian, man. I'm gonna vote for Gary Johnson or some shit."
But okay, so who's in right now? So we have Kamala, Kirsten Gillibrand. Oh, monstrous ideas.
Well, when she was 22, she had
she's an Assad toady.
What does that mean?
She is
What's a toady?
I think that I used that word correctly. Jamie, can you check what toady means?
Like towing the line? Is that what it means?
No, I think it's like a Toadie.
What does that mean?
I think it means what I think it means.
Toady. Definition of toadies. A person who flatters or defers to others for self-serving reasons.
A sycophant.
So she's an Assad sycophant. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's known about her.
Like, what did she say that
we have to look.
Her?
I don't remember the details.
We probably should say that before we say that about her. We should probably read it rather.
Well, I have read it.
No, I mean we should right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just so we know what she said.
Look up
I've had her
Tulsi
on
Gabbard.
Here before. I really enjoyed talking to her. I like her a lot.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I like talking to her.
Okay.
I like talking to her. I don't know about.
I think she's like the motherlode of bad ideas.
Whoa.
I'm pretty positive about that, especially on Assad. But maybe I'm wrong.
Sounds positive.
I don't think I'm wrong.
Well, my take on her was that I think as a person who's coming from the left, who's also a veteran and is very articulate and sensible and a woman, and in talking to her, we didn't get into Assad or any of those things, but talking to her about what she feels is wrong with the current administration and the way things are running and a direction she thinks things could go in. She had some very promising ideas. I didn't know about this.
But doesn't she also, did she ever apologize for believing in conversion therapy?
I didn't even know she believed in conversion therapy.
Am I crazy?
Is that real?
I'm almost positive this is real. I think her father ran
when you say conversion therapy, you're talking about gay people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think
I'm sure.
I think that's enough.
Pretty positive.
I think.
I think.
Yeah. So my whole point of showing that terrible thing, was so everybody could see that we easily fall into this kind of drone-like mentality of repeating things we hear from other people or from the media or things we read without actually fact checking them. And, calling Tulsi an Assad toady. First of all, Tulsi met with Assad, just like she met with all kinds of people, as we've said on the show numerous times, as you can go back and look at any actual document and documentation of her travels as well. Her meeting with Assad doesn't make her a toady, but it actually makes her someone that is trying to find a solution. But this same narrative has been spread by everybody against Tulsi. Like everybody that has something against her has always mentioned Assad. Has, first of all, how do you know that the chemical attacks were even real?
They were all debunked.
They were. I mean, if you watch
one.
Media that's not from the West, you literally see how it doesn't make sense. Yeah. None of that makes sense. And, we could do an entire other show on that, and we've touched on that before, but it's literally, it has been debunked, first of all. But aside from what you think of Assad, a person that's a leader, that's an ambassador, is going to meet with other people.
And if you don't have people.
Absolutely, to find solutions. And if you're just going to go around repeating things as a journalist, and her name is Barry Weiss, no,
Barry with an eye.
What kind of credibility are you going to have? And this is the kind of these are the kind of people that are in the New York Times that are real journalists with real
credentials,
credentials and so on and so forth. And they can't even speak truth because they are so brainwashed by what they're told.
Yeah.
That
they got to earn that paycheck, fam, and they got to spew that narrative. And can't you just see? I mean, look at that lady. You can just see how they're the lapdog for the establishment. Okay, they don't want people like Tulsi getting in there. Oh, it's known. I'm pretty sure. I think it's like, oh, just put that narrative out there. Don't do any research on it. Don't even look about the Assad chemical attacks, which have been debunked. I'm talking the first one, fam, years ago. They've been debunked every single which way since Tuesday. So I don't even want to hear it anymore. It's just disgusting. Right now, Tulsi's number one on my list until somebody else announces.
All right, and let's just move on. Before we move on to Venezuela, I did want to put up one little bracket from a black woman named Shanita Hubbard. And she says, a black woman announced her run for POTUS today, and I wish I was more excited. My thoughts on prison reform have been clear and consistent, which is why Kamala Harris gives me a pause. Her policy history includes supporting 3 strikes, a truancy policy that threatened parents with 1 year of incarceration, and my personal fave, she worked to block the release of nonviolent offenders from overcrowded prisons on the grounds that if they got parole, prisons would be losing important labor pool. I still see red when I think about that. So yes, this HBCU grad and member of the D9 gives me pause. I will wait and see how this plays out while I remain informed, because my people cannot afford to be excited based on symbolism again.
Who's the again about, fam? Say it, fam. Who's the again, fam?
Barack Obama, my
Barack
man.
Hussein Obama. Let's get on to the next one, fam, because we got a long show going on, but we have to cover this stuff because this issue right here, this is something that's personal to Fam and I. It's one of our big issues about why there's this migration problem. Fam has been living down at the border. She's been down there several times, noticing that most of the people are coming from Honduras. We have been talking about 2009, how so slowly and casually we slipped a little regime change, a coup d'etat in there. And fam,
it's happening again.
Nobody's learned their lesson.
Before your very eyes.
Nobody's talking about it, fam.
Yesterday, Trump recognized Guaido as Venezuela's leader, rebuking Maduro. So Guaido is the challenger who all of a sudden came up during a
didn't even run for the
mass protest. Yeah. No. And said, I'm going to declare myself the president of Venezuela. Maduro was the democratically elected president. He was the candidate that was elected by his people and is the president. Yeah. Now, Trump went and said, nope, I recognize Guaido. And also Pence made a really creepy video saying, hola. And it's like
when Pence said hola, it made me really uncomfortable.
I was really uncomfortable, to be honest. Lord. So Maduro then decided to go and break deep diplomatic relations with us and everybody else, actually, who is supporting the usurper. Guaido.
Yeah, and he also published the gas prices in Chinese as far as the dollar, the China dollar, how much they're worth, to totally diss American interests, whatnot. And that's why we're doing this again. Guaido supports American interest. He's going to get funded by Americans, whatnot. And the funding's been going on for Venezuela for a long time. So every single time you see one of those pundits on TV go, "What about Venezuela and socialism?" I'm like, yeah, we've been funding the opposition way back. You're talking about when Hugo Chavez was there.
Chavez.
It's we cause this chaos. We create this chaos. We pay for these protests against these leaderships. We support this. Why? Because we want our dollar. Venezuela has oil, fam, and they want it. The oligarchs want it. And guess what? They also don't want to see it. They don't want to see a socialistic government, because didn't he announce a few things today, fam?
Maduro increased the wages of his people by 300%.
Boom!
Just as we had placed more sanctions against them, he did that. And then, of course, right after he does that, look what happens. We don't want, as the United States, we want to ensure failure of a socialist kind of democracy, of socialism in a foreign country. We've done it many times, and we are doing it again this time. So for the people that are constantly complaining about immigration to the United States, why don't these people go back? Well, they can't go back when we go destabilize their countries, install our own corporate candidates with a coup d'etat, and then complain about what happens when these people escape and come to the United States and they have nowhere to go.
Escape is the right word. They're escaping death. They're escaping murder. They're escaping rape. Fam, this reminds me of when Bernie Sanders said, "I don't see two sides of the aisle. I only see one aisle," because there are Democrats on that side too. It's like the Trump people who want the wall. Okay, you don't want immigration going on. Where are you at right now? This is big right now, because this is going to cause a mass migration of Venezuelans that are already coming already. Now the floodgates are going to open up. And all those people in the Democrats who say, "We don't want a wall is immoral," whatnot. Why don't you talk about the real problem? Why? Because your democratically elected leaders backed all these regime changes.
The people you
Obama
are backing,
backed these.
While you are telling me that you care about the children at the border,
yes,
that you want to save Dreamers and DACA, but yet you continue to vote for these neocons, these neoliberals who are starting regime change wars, who are causing civil unrest that is causing everything to happen and fall into a domino effect, then you are being a hypocrite.
Yes.
Because this is the core of the problem. This is
You're
what
enabling
leads
it.
to the kind of immigration issues that we have.
Yeah.
Because we don't leave them alone.
Yeah.
And if you go and talk to Venezuelans, and I've had Venezuelan friends my whole life, and if you go and talk to Venezuelans, and if you actually go and look at people's reporting, people who actually know what they're talking about, like Abby Martin, you know that these people are supportive of Maduro. The people who are supportive of him are the working class, the poor, the people who want more workers' rights. These are the people of Venezuela that are actually supportive of him.
Yeah.
The people who are not supportive of him are the corporatists,
rich,
the capitalists, the wealthy. So again, what we're seeing in Venezuela is the divide between the rich and the poor. And of course, the rich are going to support America and stand with Americans because they ain't got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But the poor who are supporting a president that's giving them, getting ready to give them health care, that's giving them higher wages, that's doing everything he can for them, that is a man of the people. He used to drive a school bus. I mean, this man was not a wealthy man. And that is what the United States doesn't want to succeed. Not just the United States, but people like in Great Britain.
France, too.
France.
We have an article with Macron up
Canada.
there, I believe, right? Once again, and my girl, Sarah Abdullah, all right, she talked about this with Macron. Look at this one over here, fam. This one right over here. Let me get it up. Let me see. It was on my phone. I don't think I have it here. I can't see it. I can't read it. Can you read it first, Johnny, or no? Is it? Okay, but when it talks about Macron again, so Macron's out there supporting Guaido again now, all right? It's all united front of globalism and neoliberals. Oh, the unbelievable hypocrisy. Macron, whose approval rating is in France has sunk to 21%, hails the courage of the Venezuelan protesters while beating, arresting, tear gassing, and brutally cracking down on thousands of yellow vest protesters home for weeks. I mean, it's just... If Macron
is supporting this, I mean, that just tells you something, right? I mean, the majority of people who are activists and stuff understand that this is not good. Yeah. It's not good for us either, and it's not good for them.
Remember Andrew Schillem though? That's why that was the last thing. Remember when he out there said Maduro is a crook and went kind of chastised him?
And he's over there on Twitter saying it again.
He is.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure he is. That's when I was done. Yeah. Done, fam. Sorry, you were going.
Yeah. So let me just talk about how Mexico has not supported Guaido yet, and the Bolivian president Evo Morales,
of course,
declared solidarity with the people of Venezuela and brother Nicolás Maduro in resisting the claws of imperialism. He said the claws of imperialism, meaning us, in South America. That tells you everything. We are the claws of imperialism.
We are, and I love the leader of Bolivia. I mean, he's been doing some great things. He let the Chinese in. He's pretty much pushed the American and Western banks out. The IMF is out of there. I think Maduro is going to try to do the same thing. The only problem is will he be able to do it in time before John Bolton, Donald Trump already said he's open to having military force there. Boots on the ground, ladies and gentlemen. Where you at, Republicans, now? Now you're going to let them destabilize the country. Millions of immigrants got to come in, and now you're going to put our soldiers on the ground, and guess who's paying for it, fam?
And guess who's going to be pissed off when they come into this country and take your jobs?
Yeah, I mean, please. And it is important who funds them, fam, because we've been doing this for a long time. Do you have that one article with Obama? It said pretty plain and simple in that article about who funds the Venezuelan people. I just saw it. It's the picture we took. You just had it. The Vice one right here. Right here. Does it matter that the Venezuelan opposition is funded by the U.S.? Fam.
I mean, we're so busy talking about Russia. And by the way, Russia is supporting Maduro. We're so busy talking about Russia.
Yeah.
And we are meddling in other people's elections.
We're meddling in their elections.
Why? I don't what is your it's just the hypocrisy is unnerving, and anybody trying to defend Guaido and our stance on it and how we are doing this doesn't understand Latin American foreign policy. And again, this is something that many people, it just kind of flies by you because we're so busy focused on domestic policy that the foreign policy is just. But there is one presidential candidate who does actually understand and actually spoke against
Watch
this.
what our girl says. She says it. It's awesome. I had the clip up there that said that Obama earmarked money, by the way, $5 million 1 year. He earmarked money to the opposition. Now, Tulsi Gabbard said the other day, this morning, I think she said. Yeah. Why don't you read what she said? Because I don't think we have you have it right here. Go ahead.
She said the United States needs to stay out of Venezuela. Let the Venezuelan people determine their future. We don't want other countries to choose our leaders, so we have to stop trying to choose theirs.
Thank you, fam.
The only person right now that I've seen so far.
Why can't people just read that? Why can't they understand that? And we have people out there who are saying, well, those other people need help. No, they don't. We cause the chaos. We never get this right. And we just got to stay out of other people's business. We're sitting here saying people are meddling in our election, that it's not Putin, it's Rasputin, that we're getting convinced and controlled. Meanwhile, we're already talking about putting boots on the ground with troops to to overthrow a democratically elected leader, just like we did in 2009 with Manuel Zelaya in Honduras.
This is the equivalent of Democrat, let's say Nancy Pelosi or any other Democrat going, hey, I'm president now. Trump's run isn't legitimate. I'm president now. That's literally what's happening in Venezuela, and we're literally supporting it. Just so you know, it's a huge deal, and we need to be completely up in arms about it. Hands off Venezuela. No more war. No more regime change wars. None of that. And the military in Venezuela says they will not accept a president imposed by dark interests. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino said this after Washington and the allies said that they were going to recognize Guaido as president.
How long is that going to hold on, though, for fam? You know, somebody within the military is going to be bought by the United States. It's already happening. It's going to split. There's going to be civil war, and a lot of poor people are going to die because Guaido is going to try to overturn all these people protesting in the street. And most of the people in the street protesting are for Nicolás Maduro, and therefore stay continued over here. I know I'm kind of fucking stumbling over my words because this is like, once again, a regime is taking place, a regime change right in front of us. And this is the main argument for the government shutdown, is because all this migration is coming in here. Nobody's talking about the real problem. It's happening today. yesterday, January 23rd, should be known as Coup d'etat Day for America because we're doing it again, fam.
And let's go ahead and watch the video where we have kind of a summary of everything that's happened.
¡Que viva Maduro! ¡Que viva la revolución bolivariana! ¿Por quién votó este pueblo que está aquí? ¿Por quién votó este pueblo que está aquí? ¿Quién es nuestro presidente? ¿Quién es nuestro presidente? He decidido romper relaciones diplomáticas y políticas con el gobierno imperialista de los Estados Unidos. ¡Fuera! ¡Se van de Venezuela! ¡Basta de intervencionismo! ¿Quién eligió al presidente de la República? ¿Podemos los venezolanos calarnos que desde Washington se pretenda imponer un presidente en Venezuela? Es una gravísima irresponsabilidad, es una gravísima insensatez de la política extremista del gobierno de Donald Trump.
La Asamblea Nacional violenta los artículos 130, 131 y 132 constitucionales.
Así lo cumpliré. Democracia venezolana.
And on behalf of President Donald Trump,
llamando abiertamente a un golpe de Estado en Venezuela.
Pastas and shit.
Hi,
And we're back. I love it. Well, that kind of broke it down, fam. What do you got?
Yeah, no, that just basically sums up everything that we're saying. The people in Venezuela are very unhappy with our interventionism, with the way we interfere and our actions. And the majority of Americans are completely clueless. And you know what? It's actually going to be very, very few people you see standing up and saying, hey, we should not get involved with Venezuela. In fact, it might be better for many presidential candidates from their point of view to support, Guaido, to support what Trump is saying and paint Maduro as this failure of a president, as terrible president, as a terrible leader. So what you're going to see is a lot of people staying silent about it just because of how it's perceived as anti-American, anti-establishment, anti-war, and that's not something that many people are ready to do. And I commend Tulsi Gabbard for doing that. It is very tough to do that, where the majority of people are actually saying the opposite.
Yeah.
She's standing her ground, and that is why I like her for a VP position or a Secretary of State position.
I love that.
And I think she's a strong candidate because she understands foreign relations, something that the majority of her opponents, if not all of them, lack understanding of.
I think it's the time we can say that the Democratic Party is an anti-regime change, that they aren't anti-war. There's a libertarian base out there that doesn't want to go to war because they don't want to intervene, and I think that Tulsi has the ability to grab a lot of those people over there because of stances like this. And despite what she said in the past about torture and all those other things, the conversion therapy, she has apologized for those things. She has spoke a certain way. And it's decisions like this, I think, fam, that make her stand out alone. And I applaud her for coming out and saying, no mas. That's it,
guys,
fam.
We're going to wrap this up. We did go over a while, and we're going to try for the YouTube to chop up these videos into segments so you can more easily find them.
And we want to thank you for coming in and tuning in. If you got time, please like, share, subscribe to our YouTube, our Facebook. We'll see you soon. CONVO out.
Bye.